Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Bob Mendelsohn, and this is the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. Happy Equinox Day. Wherever you are in the world, today's light and dark should be of equal length. At least it should be. And today you'll meet Mark Rogers, who works with an outfit called Friends of Israel. But strangely, he's more interested in Australian Jewish people than he is in politics in Israel. Let's find out more about him, shall we? I hope you enjoy Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor. It's one of my favorites. Thanks for joining me for this Bob's Your Uncle podcast, Season 3, Episode 15. Of note, the opinions are strictly my own and those of my guests. You can now find us and comment to us wherever you get your podcasts. Tell us what matters to you, what triggers your joy, what bothers you in the world. Let us know. We'll see where the Spirit leads us. Whether you're at home, online, on the road with me in your headset at the gym, or out for your evening constitutional, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where we will be. Thanks for being with us these 18 minutes.
But I do know that I love you, and I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be.
Historical Marker of the Week. On this date in history, 21st of March in 1349, between 100 and 3,000 Jewish people were killed by Germans blaming the Jews for the Black Death in riots in Erfurt, Germany. In 1826, Beethoven's String Quartet No. 13 in B-flat major premiered in Vienna, and in 1844, the original date predicted by William Miller of Massachusetts for the return of Jesus and the end of the world, that didn't happen. And that's the Historical Marker of the Week. And now my interview with a friend named Mark Rogers. I hope you enjoy this. Mark Rogers, thank you for joining us on the Bob's Your Uncle podcast.
You're welcome, Bob.
Where is home for you?
Well, my home at present is at Werribee. My wife and I have lived there for about the past 6.5 years after moving from Newcastle, north of Sydney.
But Werribee's in Victoria.
Werribee is on the western side of Melbourne, Victoria.
Were you raised there?
No. I have lived in 17 homes all over Australia since I was born.
Are you running from the law?
One might think that. No, I was, first off, I was a part of an army family, and then when I went into ministry, part of the baggage with ministry is that you get moved around a bit to different positions and places.
Like an army brat.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, in some of your work here in Australia, you use your guitar and your lovely voice to help Jewish people. How would you describe what you do?
I see one of the mottos of Friends of Israel, and this is where I see myself fitting in as well, is building bridges, finding hope. And the Friends of Israel has a real ministry in that area of building bridges with the Jewish people and establishing that friendship with Jewish folk. And so that's been part of my ministry, particularly in the Jewish aged care facilities, where I've served in, actually since starting back in Newcastle. I used to drive down to Sydney and connect with a Jewish Montefiore home there. And here I've had contact with another 4 Jewish homes. And I take my music program there, and the residents really seem to enjoy the music programs, and and also the staff are very responsive, and families, and it's been marvellous to see the connection made through just through those programs.
Now, you call the organization Friends of Israel. Did you start that organization?
No. The Ministry of the Friends of Israel goes back to 1934, I think, even before the Holocaust, before the Second World War, and I think our founding father was Victor Buxbazen.
Buxbazen, the Polish Jew.
Yes.
He was a noble fellow.
So it's quite remarkable seeing these people who knew these great saints in the ministry of reaching out to the Jewish people.
Never met a Saint Victor, but I like that. Now, what prompted you to let your guitar and singing and going to Jewish aged care facilities? What prompted you to use your guitar and singing to go to Jewish aged care places, to make that part of your work?
Well, when I was called to work with Friends of Israel, I was going through a bit of a crisis. And I was, prior to that, a pastor and also working as a chaplain in aged care. And I used my guitar a lot, both in preaching and singing and also in the aged care facilities. And so when I came down here to Victoria back in 2015, there was a real sense of me wanting to make a connection with the Jewish elderly people. And so I got onto the phone and I called the recreation officer at Gary Smorgon Home. And I told her that I'd had experience working in aged care for many years, and she offered my services, and she just simply said, "When can you come?"
They love that, don't they?
When can you come?
Somebody who wants to come and sing to old folks?
Yeah. So,
Is that the connect?
Yes.
What is it about music that makes people so happy?
I think that on a couple of levels. Firstly, I think there's a great reminiscing quality to it, that it takes people back to a happier time, and also just a soothing, calming impact that music has, as we know in the story of David and Saul.
You and I know that, but I'm not sure the audience knows that.
David, who played King David, who played
King David. So
King
we're
David.
Talking Bible.
Yeah,
days.
we are. We're talking about Bible times. Who played his harp when the evil King Saul, his predecessor, was trying to kill him, and David played his harp, and it calmed him down considerably.
So
and I've found that working with people, particularly people with dementia, who are they're often very stressed. They're fretful, they are confused, and very anxious. And sometimes I just start them playing my guitar and singing, and it can be transformative. It just changed people.
I love music. I play music a lot. And on the show, season 3, this is the 3rd season of the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. And we use Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor. I think King David would have been jealous that we have that. Look, you called your organization Friends of Israel.
Well, no, I didn't call it that. No, that was called that by the founders.
by Rabbi Victor Buxbazen.
Yeah, that's something.
Now,
like that.
Friends of Israel, great name. I'd rather friends than enemies, of course.
Yeah.
How do you personally handle those who disparage the Jewish people, or who might even call themselves enemies of Israel?
Well, if they call themselves Christian believers, I simply take them to the Bible and I remind them that Jesus was a Jew, that the Apostle Paul was a Jew. In fact, he called himself one of the chief Jews, and he was a Jew among Jews.
Well, let's take it out of the Bible, because these people who are enemies, that say they're enemies of Israel, or they don't prefer to be super pro-Israel. They just want everybody everywhere to have a fair go, and leave the poor Arabs alone. And there are Palestinians who are pressured. And here you are saying, "I'm a friend of Israel." Are you saying you're not a friend of Palestinians?
By no means. No means. God is no respecter of persons, but he has a unique people through whom he has brought his truth and his revelation of himself to the world, and they are the Jewish people. And it is through the Jewish people that the Messiah came, and it is through the Jewish people that we have the Scriptures, and it's through the Jewish people that you and I, as Christian believers, have hope. We owe a great debt to Israel and to the Jewish people.
Well, I'm a Jew.
Of course you are.
So I owe a debt to myself. That's awkward. But now think about this with me, Mark. When you say friends of Israel, people who are outside the religion world, they're going to see that as a political thing, aren't they? So you're saying I'm a friend of the nation of Israel. They're looking at it politically. And you're talking about going to a Jewish nursing care. You're taking care of individual Jewish people. You have a genuine heart, a beautiful heart to love my people. I so appreciate that. How do you go from Friends of Israel meaning people to Friends of Israel not meaning political Zion, blue and white flag waving? Or are you talking about that?
I don't believe you can separate the two.
Ooh.
God has established through, well, if I think about the people to whom I minister, many of them are Holocaust survivors, very elderly Holocaust survivors. Melbourne is a great hub of Holocaust survivors, even on a world standard. And I think they probably want to get as far away from the trouble that they were in previously as possible. And so, it's I don't see that you can divorce Israel from the people, and Israel the nation from the people, and Israel the people from the nation. While there are many people would not return to the nation, I know there's going to come a time when that will happen even more so, that God will restore all his people to the nation. And
What a day of rejoicing that'll be.
Amen. And but I just feel there's this great compassion that God has placed in my heart for his people. And I know that over the years that I've been involved in this ministry, the past 8 years particularly, that I have had, I've sat many times with elderly people and just wept with them over the suffering that they have endured. Even here in Melbourne, I can remember one of the Jewish nursing homes where I visit. 1 week was daubed with swastikas, and it broke my heart. It was one of the ones where I go and do my music programs, and I just could not believe that such animosity and hatred exists for the Jewish people against the Jewish people in our modern Australian culture.
It's 21st century. We should be beyond that.
We should be, but we're not. And the old hatred, what they call the oldest hatred, still exists, and it's a very sad thing to see in our culture here. In Australia, we're supposed to be the land of the fair go, the land of freedom and opportunity, but there's still some of those old hatreds exist in
old
such a terrible.
Die hard.
They do, and when they're ingrained in people.
And we see that not only in religion, but we also see it on the football pitch. Do you have a favorite sporting team? Do you follow the AFL, footy, golf, tennis, pickleball? Do you follow any of those?
Well, I must say that there are certain things in one's life that one can't change, and I grew up in Western Sydney, and so I'm a Penrith Panthers rugby league fan.
There you go.
And so, there's not much. I still don't understand Aussie rules, AFL.
Hang around Melbourne long enough. It'll help. It'll fill in.
My pastor is working on me.
Okay, good. Is there anything else you want to tell the Bob's Your Uncle podcast?
Well, I must say that I've enjoyed the fellowship and camaraderie of these last few days at this conference. It's been a great blessing, and to get together with people who have a similar heart for the Jewish people. And I pray that as part of my ministry in preaching, I do a lot of preaching around local churches, and part of that is trying to wake up churches to the fact that not only do we owe a great debt to Israel in relation to our heritage, but we owe a great debt to them to love them and to impart the message of Yeshua, the Mashiach, to them.
Beautiful.
To try and show them the wonderful story of salvation that can be theirs.
So sweet.
The peace with God that they can have.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. A real
Bless you,
pleasure.
brother. Thank you.
For those watching or listening online, we just shook hands because that's what you do at the end of an interview. All the best to you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much, Bob.
Every week we read from the #1 bestseller of all time. And again, today is no exception. So here's that Bible verse from Psalm 103, verse 7. God made known his ways to Moses, his acts to the sons of Israel. What do you think about all this? Write me on bobmendo@aol.com or comment or even video to me on Instagram or Twitter at Bob'sYourUnclePC. I'd love to know what you think about all this. Don't forget to follow this podcast on your app. Thanks. Next week, we'll be sharing with Josh Gaddis from the United States, who, along with tens of thousands of others, is involved in the hospitality industry, and he's making a new go at podcasting as well. Should be a good one. See you next Tuesday. Until then, from me, Bob Mendelsohn, when things seem bleak or uncertain, look up to God. He's in his heaven. And Bob's your uncle. Shalom from Sydney.